What's up, everybody? Want to introduce you to the newest project that came in the shop. This is a 67 C10. This truck's been sitting for quite a while. Somebody at one point had managed to put an engine in here and just never finished the install. So I've been tasked with putting this truck together. The truck actually came here complete. I did, as you can see, pull the engine out. I got in here and did a whole bunch of cleaning just because it looked pretty disgusting and there was no way that I was going to put a nice freshly painted engine in an engine bay like this. So I went ahead, scuffed the firewall down and cleaned up the frame rails here. And I'm getting that prepped and ready to put back in. But what we're going to be dealing with today is something that a lot of people absolutely don't like doing, and that's drum brakes. This truck, being a 67, actually has drum brakes all the way around it. It's got it in the front and in the rear. Now, this isn't that challenging if you kind of pay attention, and they work just fine if you set them up correctly. Now, biggest thing here is people are like, oh, they're just a pain in the butt to set up. They're not. They work great. They used them for many, many years. Actually, as far as I know, you might actually still be able to get drum brakes on some newer pickups. So what we're going to be doing is tackling the rear brakes. The front ones are already done. I did those yesterday. But today we're going to be tackling the rear. Now, you guys look down and in here, it looks dirty, but actually all of this stuff is pretty new. From what I can tell is when this truck was put together how many years ago, they must have did brakes all the way around it, put new wheel cylinders in it, new hoses, new hardware, and new shoes, and new drums. But with it sitting for so long, I'm not going to take the chance. I am going to replace all the wheel cylinders, all the hoses, and I already replaced the master cylinder up front. So let's just dive into this. I'll give you guys a quick little spiel here on how I pull them apart and how I set them all back up. Okay, first and foremost, you're going to need a couple special tools here. You're going to need a little clip remover. This is kind of an open-ended socket. Looks kind of goofy, but it goes on these little spring clips here. You're going to want that. And you're also going to want one of these. This is a brake or a drum kind of tool. It's got a couple different things to it. One end you can use to take springs off the top. The other end you can use to actually hook and slide the springs back on. I'll show you guys that later. And this side you can also use to kind of grab and pull springs into place. So you're definitely going to want these two things. Let's just dive in here and we'll get going. All right, one of the very first things I'll have you guys do if you're going to try to tackle drum brakes, because they are different between makes and models, is go ahead and snap a picture. That way you know how everything gets put back on once you have it all off and laying on the ground. Pretty basic here. We're going to get rid of these spring clips. That's where this tool comes in quite handy. Just push in a little bit of pressure, give it a twist, 90 degrees, and that stuff will pop off. Second thing, we're going to go to our cool little brake tool. You can pick these up pretty much anywhere. And you've got this round end with this little hooky thingy on it. That round end is open and is made to slide over the top of that pin. So just get the little hooky in there, give it a little twist and turn, and you can pop one spring off. If you guys want to, you can set these on the ground, set all your springs on this side of the truck, and all your springs on this side of the truck. So once you get that one off, we'll go ahead and do the same thing on this side. Pop that one off. And then from there, it's pretty basic. We're gonna disconnect this one. They can be a little tricky. They are under a little bit of pressure. You might have some parts and pieces that hit the floor. Just kind of pay attention to where they go. This is your adjuster. So what this does is as you back up and the shoes catch your drums, it pivots your shoes one way or the other, which actually creates a little pull action on this and a pivot point. And this little lever down here will actually come down and turn your star adjuster at the bottom there. but we'll get into that once I get this all set back up. Oh, sometimes you need to give everything a little bit of a push, but that's really on there. That's pretty uncommon, actually. We're going to try to get him off of there somehow. There we go. Twist and move him. Now, actually, you probably don't even really need to take this off. I choose to because I like to make sure that I clean everything up before it goes back together. So once you get that off, this is kind of the simple / hard part. Simple part is you can just pull your shoes apart and pull them at you. The hard part is you got an e-brake to deal with. So if you just take the little spring here, give it a pull, and you can sometimes just pull these out of the way. Like that. And then you got your shoes that come apart. Set those down there. The spring adjuster came apart. One thing too, make sure on this too, these are side specific. One is left, one is right, because as you can see, this one is actually reverse thread. So as I go to tighten it, or is this one correct? Yep, loosen, goes out, tighten goes in. The other side will be opposite of that actually. As you go to tighten it, it will actually loosen, and that's just because it's side to side specific. So it was easy to get to this point. I'm just gonna get this wheel cylinder out of here, and then we'll go ahead and clean everything up, and then we'll show you how I put them back together and how I set them up. A little trick here, guys. When you go to put your wheel cylinder in, the way that I do it, make sure you push your pistons in a little bit when you go to install it, because these little brackets here, the pistons that are inside here are probably out already, just from the spring tension that's inside of the casing itself. Push those in so you can engage this all the way. Second thing is before I tighten down the 2 bolts that are in the back here, I always start my brake line on the wheel cylinder to make sure it's square and that it goes in there nice and easy. I rather get that done first, and then you can always just kind of weasel this around till you get the 2 back bolts to start. So we got the wheel cylinder in there. Now we'll go ahead and put everybody else together. So one thing that is overlooked a lot is on your backing plate, you're going to have, in this case, 6 little flat areas. And that is actually where your brake shoe sits on and kind of moves. As you expand it and stop and everything kind of twists in here, that rides tight up against your backing plate. Now on a lot of these older vehicles, this can actually be grooved. Just from years and years of having that brake shoe rub on there, you can actually groove that, and then your brakes kind of get stuck in one position. So before you put anything back together on here, make sure you look at this really good and make sure there's no groove in there. If there is, it's as simple as welding it up or grinding it and try to make it flat again. These are fine, so I don't think there's too many miles on this truck. So we'll go ahead and just slam this all back together. Another thing is your adjuster, your star adjuster. Make sure you guys back this all the way out, that this will spin freely. You want 0 resistance here, so your brakes can self-adjust. Same with the other side. This pin needs to spin freely as well. What I like to do is put just a little dab of grease up here. Spin him around, make sure that will be just fine. And actually do the same on the bottom. Just the tiniest bit of grease. You guys can use anti-seize, I've done that before too. And then I spin these all the way in. This kind of just gets the grease all the way in those threads. And then we'll go ahead and spin it out a ways. And all we're doing is just making sure that this has no tension against it, and it can self-adjust like it should. Okay, I'll show you guys this side of the tool with this little hooky deal on it. You see I got all the brakes in there. What you do with this side is you use that, it's got a little hook on one end. You use that as your pivot point, and then you just pull, rotate, and they snap into place. Another thing I like to do is come in here and just kind of give these springs a little bit of a bend down, if you can get your pliers on it. Just make sure that they don't come off at any point ever. But yeah, the brakes went pretty slick. Once I get them all on and they're sitting like this, I like to kind of just give them a rock inside the housing here. Make sure that everybody is sliding nicely and got some movement. That's actually what happens inside of your drum. So when your wheel cylinder pistons push out, it only pushes out the top part of the brake. And as your tire is rotating, that's grabbing this part of the shoe, technically kind of bringing it up and then actually slamming this part of the shoe down tighter against the surface of the drum. So it's working all the surface area of the shoe there on both sides. So this whole mechanism here is your self-adjuster. We'll go over kind of how that works. So as you go backwards, or as you back your truck up or car up, the brakes are going to twist the opposite direction. When they come out and put force on the drum, they're going to kind of twist opposite. And what that does is actually rotates this arm and brings the lever down here at the bottom, if you guys can see that, and spins that little star wheel to adjust your brakes up. So once you set all of your brakes up and you got a little bit of drag on the drum, I'll show you that next, it's best to go out and back your vehicle up a couple different times and apply your brakes. That's going to help kind of adjust it up to where the mechanical system of your brakes needs to be or wants to be. And then from there, as you push the pedal, your wheel cylinder will fill with brake fluid, create hydraulic pressure, push your pistons out, and push your shoes out against your drum. So now we'll go over on how I set these up as far as the resistance that I like up against the drum. All right, well, let's adjust these things up. Now, yes, I am putting a dirty, rusty drum back on this truck, but I did clean up the inside, and if you guys can see that, that's fresh looking metal yet. So I'm pretty sure these drums were new and have very, very little miles on them. However many years ago this truck got started in the process. So I'm just going to go ahead and use these. The customer will eventually go to disc brakes. We've talked about that already, but this will just get us on the road. So first thing is we're going to slide the drum on. And you guys can hear I have zero resistance from the shoe on the drum. So we're going to go ahead and set them up. Do that by just twisting your little star adjuster at the bottom here. And we're just going to go little by little until we hear some resistance. So there's just a little bit. So we want a little more than that. I kind of do it by feel and by how it sounds. So we'll go a little more yet with that adjuster. And now I've got resistance on the shoe to the drum. I can feel that as I'm sliding it on. So what I'm going for is a nice, even sound of a shoe up against the drum. So we're close. We're just going to go a little bit more, and we'll see how it sounds. Getting closer. I also like to do this once in a while, kind of set them shoes in position again. Set it up a little more. All we're going for here is just a little bit of resistance. I know I got good resistance now because the drum's getting kind of hard to be put on there, but that's all right. We're going to rotate the drum or the axle into position. There, that's pretty darn good. So I've got good sound This goes all the way around. That might be just on the tight side. So take the drum back off. Kind of walk it top to bottom. They come off. And then we're gonna loosen the pads or the shoes up a little bit. So I have to pick up the adjuster arm on the bottom, and we're gonna rotate the opposite direction just a little. And that'll be good enough for us to go out and kind of do some stops and use the adjusters as we get into reverse to set them where they want to be. And then from here, go ahead and bleed the brakes out, and we should be good to go. All right, passenger side done, fronts are done. I still have to get around and do the driver's side rear as well. Like I said earlier, I do have a brand new master cylinder underneath the hood. So once I get the driver's side done, replace the rear hose as well, I will put some fluid in there. I like to let these things gravity bleed, literally just crack all the bleeders and let them go until you see some drips. And then from there, I'll go ahead and bleed them all out. So hopefully that helps. I know drum brakes can be awfully daunting or seem really difficult to do. They're not that tough. Again, just you'll need a couple random tools and then take a picture before you start so you know how it goes back together, and then just go for it. So you guys can tackle that. It's an easy thing to do in your driveway at home with some jack stands and a jack. So hopefully this is a cool little video for you guys. Please hit that little like button at the bottom and subscribe. That just helps me, and I will keep bringing you guys videos, and we'll keep moving forward on the C10 here. So we will check you guys next time.